was done recording myself for 5 minutes and then I realized I haven't put on this motherfucking mic. I got feedback from my last video that I must introduce myself, which I think is very fair. So here is my degree in philosophy, and I also studied political science for 4 semesters. And point is that I'm super interested in analyzing love, dating, companionship, relationships, not just from the lens of philosophy and psychology. In the last video, I made a point that these are getting overrated and that we should try looking at the problem of modern dating from a breadth of disciplines like sociology, history, economics, and politics. In the last video, I did say that I'll try my best to theorize the first fundamental problem, which is the love gap. But I feel like before conceptualizing that and really getting into it, there are a few other questions that we must get out of the way. For example, what are these structural and social forces that I keep talking about? And what approaches to love did our previous generations leave for us? How did we adapt to these approaches that were left for us? Have we inherited literal dating scripts and dialogues from our genders? And how can we push for a better approach to love? First thing first, what are the structural and social forces? Imagine that there are two stadiums. One looks like this and the other one looks like this. Now, because of the very design of the stadium one, people are bound to have peripheral interaction. People from opposite teams are going to have more social cohesion. They're going to sit with each other. They're going to interact with each other as compared to stadium 2, because people are sitting across each other. They might as well think, okay, I support team A and they support team B. Everyone might just choose to like sit across each other, like completely divided, and there is no peripheral interaction. So the emotions in the stadium will be very heightened in the sense of competitiveness. And also because of lesser space utilization in design too, a more elite and mature crowd would be showing up because the ticket prices would be high and not everyone would be able to afford it. So I want you to look at these stadiums and think of these as the structural forces. But what happens inside of the stadium because of the type of crowd that sits in it is the social force. So you must have heard how Japanese people have a tendency to sort of clean up after they leave any stadium. And that's because the social force of cleanliness is huge in their culture. And these structural and social forces are always in interaction with each other, but sometimes one overpowers the other. For example, even if the structure of the stadium, the design, the seating plan, the waste management is not good enough, if the social force of cleaning in a culture is huge, they will go against all the structural odds and still clean up. Now, in real life, structural forces are not one person laying the rules out for you. It's about the systems that you were born into. It's about the legal system, the political system, or the economic system that you were born into, wherein your mundane actions, your everyday actions have little to no influence on them until and unless it's a mass social movement like the civil rights movement or the feminist movement. But these structural forces dictate high level behaviors and they also set high level expectations around, a union, a place, or just like how if you were to go to Stadium 1 as opposed to Stadium 2 or Stadium 2 as opposed to Stadium 1, you would know what to expect. A lot of people make the mistake of detaching structural force from their life, but as an example, if you're working 40 hours a week and then you're constantly stressed about work, you're also working on the weekend intermittently, you do not have much time or emotional bandwidth to go out on date or to date with intent for that matter. You have a very limited window to relax and you don't want to spoil it by taking an emotional risk. Moving on to what social forces are like. So it's very easy to understand. Basically, whatever your religion, your community, your immediate, um, you know, circle, your family dictate or mandate about love, that is the social force. So for example, stigma. Stigma can be used to encourage or discourage certain behaviors. It can be negative or positive. So for example, imagine if there was no stigma around cheating on your partner. How would your behavior change? And the thing with social forces is they're explicitly said out loud in conversations, and the consequences of going against the social force is also often stated in the form of social ostracization, gossip, character assassination, loss of social capital, loss of your network. It also gets internalized over a period of time. So, whose voice is it in your head that tells you whether you should marry a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian? Turns out your mom is in the room with you when you're trying to find true love. Now, what did our ancestors leave behind for us when it comes to approaching love? There are two dominant approaches. First one is the benefits driven approach, and the second one is the essence driven approach. Benefit driven approach is like, when uncles and aunties ask you, when are you getting married? It's not because they care about the fact that you're constantly getting ghosted, but because marriage has always been an asset for the community. Couple is married, the entire village benefits because the network and the money that the couple makes can be borrowed by the relatives without any interest or other costs to pay. Their children are going to be retirement plans, and their children are also going to inherit culture, customs, other traditions, and keep the lineage alive. Basically, this is an approach where love is means to different ends, and all of these are functional benefits of a marriage. Number two is the essence driven approach, where love is the end itself. This approach seems to understand the internal makeup of the person, where you try to understand the person's curiosity, morality, what are their joys, what are their aversions, what repulses them, everything that comes to form their essence that you come to love. When you sort of approach love from this lens, it becomes an aspiration, not a need. And it treats the partner as an inspiration, not a tool. Now, the most significant structural shift in dating happened when we moved from dating in our known social pool to complete strangers. So the old structure was you met your father's friend's daughter. If you treated someone like shit, your father was also going to get dragged. There was a little bit of liberty and little room for experimentation and a huge social cost to pay. But today, we are not answerable to anyone. We have no pressure to say yes to the first person we go out with. There is so much room for experimentation, and especially with younger people being financially independent a little earlier in their lives than the previous generations, we can actually afford dating in all the senses: economical, social. And so the question is immediately born: why have we not opted entirely for the essence driven approach? Two reasons. Number one, pseudo liberty. We have the structure of freedom, but we're still driven by the fear of the social forces of our parents, of the community. For instance, how many times have you heard of a love couple in your family or through your friends who had to eventually break up because of their families, and not to mention the amount of trauma they had to go through? And so we're not entirely sure if our community is going to approve of the essence driven approach. And number two, we actually lack modern as well as past references for the essence driven approach. We do not have healthy examples of the essence driven approach. You're telling me I have thousands of examples from Ram, Sita to my cousins when it comes to the benefit driven approach. But when I try to look around for the essence driven approach, all we have is Laila Majnun and Cinderella, Snow White, tragic, depressive, and impractical examples of love for love's sake. And even if there are good examples, sometimes the society appropriates them. For example, if a couple committed a love marriage and things are working really fantastic, the society would rather say, hey, it's not because they love each other, it's because they have like a functional arrangement that makes their marriage work. Also, since these examples are against the communal benefits, historically I feel like they had to go through so much, and they were also crushed by the community. So the average person thinks, wow, why should I invest so much in someone my community is going to give me hell for? So the final consequence is we too have succumbed to the benefits driven approach. But this time, it's not just the community that benefits. We think, oh, I would have been ostracized for wanting to sleep with someone before marriage 50 years back. I must mind this liberty. I must sleep with the whole village because my dad couldn't and his dad couldn't. So we use personal utility to rebel against the historical pressure. But because we don't have the capacity to chuck it out entirely, at the end of the day, we do what our parents, aka the community, wants us to do. So we stop looking for essence on purpose. The farther you move away from dating known acquaintances, dating friend of a friend, dating, someone from, your family, and into the online space, You have the power of anonymity. So we turn amoral toward people. We turn people into external goods to be consumed for our benefit, whether it's validation, whether it's sex, whether it's free food, whether it's splitting the fucking rent, attention, ego. We ghost, we lie, we manipulate, we deceive, we coerce in peace. Because there are absolutely no consequences until you match with someone's best friend you once did dirty. That is the only time we shit our pants just a little because we think somewhere someone will know our dirty business and then we might have to pay the social cost in the form of gossip. Ladies and gentlemen, for tens of thousands of years, we have only known how to be useful to each other. The practice of knowing the other gender is rather recent. So no wonder why we keep sliding back into the functional benefit driven approach because it's the very blueprint we were given. But you know what else did we import? What else did we inherit apart from the blueprint? Literal social scripts, literal social dialogues for both the genders. You have the type of liberty your grandmother or your grandfather would kill for in the 40s. But you are out here ruining your chances by saying shit like, oh, he better earn 30 lakhs a month. Why? You want to buy a Bugatti? You need a wealth manager. You need financial planning and not a hinge date. Or, oh, she better be younger with like fair skin and 47 kgs. Why? Because having a beautiful wife elevates your social value. Go rent a girlfriend then. There are women who are perfectly fine with being in a transactional relationship where these terms are stated, where her job is to look pretty for you 24 by 7 and your job is to sustain her lifestyle. But you won't. Why? Because it feels bad to pay someone to like you. Pick your fucking battle, okay? You want love or you want your mom's approval. In the end, call to action. We need to have a better approach to love. And there are three things that you can do to ensure that on a personal level. Honestly, at a structural and social level. Number one, go against the binaries. Push to the other side. By which I mean men should take on the roles that they did not take up traditionally, such as care and emotional labor in a relationship, in a date, in a companionship, whatever it is. And women should engage more with the material labor of a relationship to do away with the whole power dynamic of the provider. Number two, study the forces. Stop blaming yourself or your date's personality for your dating failures and start understanding how your parents' expectations, the expectations that are put on your gender historically and socially, are ruining your dating choices. Your work hours, fucking public transport sometimes, the urban security in your city, or the algorithm of the dating app that you use. It's only when you understand and acknowledge how these forces are at play in shaping your decisions on love will you have empathy for yourself and the person sitting in front of you. And number three, shift from asking, what can this person do for me, to who is this person? What is the makeup of this person? It doesn't even have to be that emotional and loaded in the beginning. You just need to observe the person for who they are. It does not mean you have to love them. This just means that whether you love them or you don't love them, it will be on human grounds. I know I still have not been able to present examples of the love gap. I can do that by skipping all the explaining that I did over here, especially to introduce the term social scripts and social dialogues, because these are genuinely the ways men and women have been programmed for thousands of years to behave and conduct themselves in relationships. When the friction of the differences in these social scripts is felt for the first time, and honestly, not just the first time, when it's felt time and again in different stages of a relationship, it does not just lead to this unpleasant feeling, it also makes men and women resent each other. So in the next video, I want to talk about when is this friction felt first, that is the way you approach towards dating, and how one gender is maybe a little more inclined to the benefits driven approach rather than the essence driven approach. And high time that I bring in a gendered angle because I know I've been neutral for too long and I can only be neutral for so long. So yeah. Until then, if you like my content, you can maybe subscribe my channel. I know my content can be very dense, and so what I have done is created this using AI. Shout out to Gemini. This sort of maps the entire flow of my video. And I have also compiled all the words and their definitions mapped in an Excel sheet. So it becomes like a glossary that you can sort of just skim through. All the images and the diagrams and the infographics that have been used in the video would also be linked there. Bye, and I'll see you in the next video now.